Yeah, hi, Coach. In the days since the Missouri game, how do you feel like your guys have responded in practice and so on?
We were off on Sunday. If we play Wednesday, Saturday, Olin, we take off on Sunday. We were good on Monday. We were competitive for longer stretches of time. We were scheduled to leave Tuesday as soon as the kids got out of class. And we found out as we were loading the bus about the cancellation. So we would have practiced on Tuesday at 6 in Nashville. So we ended up practicing here at 6. I thought it was arguably one of the top 2 or 3 back-to-back days we've had since all of this started. Once we finished the protocols, I guess that would have been in mid-October when we started for real practice. So it was encouraging. This is our first cancellation, Olin, so I don't know that we've necessarily handled it right or not. We took off yesterday because we're scheduled to play Tuesday, Saturday next week. So it was obviously road, Tuesday game for the first time since Christmas, and then road again. So we took off yesterday, which meant we had early bird this morning. And so we're about to practice here in just a little bit. The guys are in the weight room. So relative to all of the changes, I think they've maybe better than we could have anticipated.
Now, were you in any way, I don't know, glad for the break and to work some more, or are you more of the, hey, it's a get back on the horse kind of thing?
Yeah, I didn't, it was obviously the first time in my career that a game has been canceled other than we were scheduled to play Ohio State on the boat when I was at Marquette in Charleston, and we warmed up, and then there was condensation on the floor. And so that game was canceled literally as they were about to tip it up, and the kid slipped and fell. So I didn't know how to process it, to be honest, Olin. When I told our kids at noon on Tuesday, I told them, guys, let's not post anything because it'll become public knowledge soon enough. And then I'll see you guys at 6 because that's when we were going to practice. And let me take the next 6 hours to think about what would be the best use of our time over the next 48 hours since things have changed. So I don't know that I necessarily had a feeling other than I don't like to make emotional decisions. And I wanted to make sure that we handled this change as best we could. And so that's the way we went. And we'll see if that was the right decision.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next, we'll go to Chip Howard, and then we'll go to Travis.
So when you look at Ole Miss, especially the games they've won, they have really locked down the other team defensively. I think they held Mississippi State to 46 the other night. What do you see from them, especially when they're playing that kind of defense?
They played more zone last night than they did in all of their conference games combined against Mississippi State. As you know, Coach Davis is very well known. I don't know if he did it when he was at Texas A&M. I was still in high school, but they play a unique half-court zone that starts in one alignment, and then predicated on where the ball goes, it turns into a different type of zone, kind of morphs into something else. They have done a little bit of that prior to, in their first 5 games in conference play, they had done that 20% of the time. And then against Mississippi State, they played some of that, but then they played 26 possessions of just 2-3 zone. So I don't know, because I'm not sure what they were trying to do specific to Mississippi State, but I think the changing of one zone to a different zone back to man maybe caused Mississippi State some problems, because I think that was the lowest point total of the year for either team defensively.
When a team's playing zone, the adage is you can beat them on the offensive boards to miss shots. I know you emphasized that anyway. What's the strategy for Saturday?
Yeah, it's paramount for us to get as many possessions as possible. We struggled to get a shot because of our turnover rate. When we do get a shot, obviously we're not shooting a great percentage. So any opportunities on the offensive glass or at the free throw line, it's manna from heaven for us. I think defensively, through Ole Miss's 6 games, the opponent is shooting 44%. And then through 6 games with us, the opponent's shooting 46%. So that 44 number, I think it wasn't 44, it was 46. That was a big number. I think they held Mississippi State in the mid-30s field goal percentage wise. Whether a team's in zone or man, I do think we have to create as many offensive rebound opportunities as possible, just so that we have an opportunity to get another shot.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we'll go to Travis Brown, and then we'll go to Andrew Hattersley.
Hey, Coach. I know that we've talked about in other mediums, but I don't think we've talked about it here, and that is the special role that you have for Zach Walker and what he's been able to do with the team this year. If you could, what is kind of that role you put him in, and what has he been able to bring to the team, subbing in on those out of bounds plays?
Well, he's the toughest player in our program, and I think everybody is accepting of that fact. He really cares. He's not scared. He'll take a hit. He'll guard anybody. He's not delusional about who he is or about his role. He's wants to do anything that he can to help us. We were really bad last year, Travis, relative to special teams, both offensively and defensively. Arguably, it was the worst thing we did. Not only in league play, but if you looked at our numbers nationally. And so we've tried to make it more of a point of emphasis to be better. For instance, against Mississippi State, 16 of our points came on out of bounds plays. Well, if you score in the mid 50s and you score 16 points on out of bounds plays, that's like, obviously it gives you a chance. And then we tried to do better defensively as well, and we have. Both of our numbers, offensively and defensively, out of bounds and sideline out of bounds, we have improved distinctly. Arguably the only thing we have improved in many respects in comparison to last year at this time. We started that did we start that against Tennessee? We may have seen glimpses of it prior to that. I think Tennessee had 7 out of bounds plays, and he was in, and we had 6 stops. It could have been Auburn now that I'm saying that, but it's just kind of become his role. Hey, Zach, study their out of bounds, know what they are. We'll sub you in. I don't know who you'll sub in for, but you're going to sub in for someone. And the next time the whistle blows, you're going to sub out. But your job is to help our team get a stop, which concludes with a rebound. And he's been, statistically speaking, his team has, whoever he has played with those other 4 kids, he's been phenomenal at it.
Have you ever had a player that kind of served in this kind of role in the past years, or is this kind of a new experiment?
I used to do it as a team, Travis. We do spend time on the opponent as coaches. We haven't, because of our own issues, we haven't spent as much time on the opponent this year with our team as we have in years past. I think it would have been the year we went to the Elite 8 at Marquette. I don't know if it's just because of how we do things, because I haven't been anywhere else in a long time as an assistant. But, you spend most of your time on personnel. That's become more and more important as the game has become positionless. but then the bulk of your time you spend with your team on we call it gold. So what are their gold actions? And then we have a silver actions. And what ends up getting tossed to the side, or maybe not the priority it should be, are out of bounds under, sideline out of bounds, late game situations. And so I think I'm confident that's what it was. It was year 5 at Marquette. And we just developed a team, just like punt return or kickoff in football. Hey, who's the best guys we can put on the floor specific to what we're trying to accomplish? And we did that at Marquette, and I became so convicted by it that if the horn went off, whoever was on that team that wasn't in the game, they didn't even wait for me to sub them in, similar to what happens with Zach. And, what it does is it creates a little bit of tension, which is what you want, in that you're subbing guys out because they can't get a stop on out of bounds. And that's what happens with Zach, right? Like those 5 kids that are in the game, as soon as they know it's out of bounds under, they're looking because they're wondering who I'm going to say Zach has to get, which they don't want to be that guy. And we did it as a team at Marquette, and the starting point guard, a Canadian, our first Canadian, Junior Cadogan, it hurt his feelings so bad. And he's like, Coach, why can't I be on that team? And I'm like, you're not good enough to be on that team. This is when you get to get a drink of water. And it started to, in practice, he's like, Coach, can we practice out of bounds? And I'm like, yeah, you remember your all-time out of bounds offense. You don't get to play defense. You can only play on one side of the ball. So the deal with Zach was can we not turn the ball over enough to get up enough shots to have a chance to win? That's a big piece. And then how can we find ways strategically to limit the number of possessions or the number of shots or their points per possession offensively? And we were giving up way too many points per possession on out of bounds defense. And that's where the deal with Zach came. And then the deal with Luke started. We gave up 3 opponent free throw rebounds, and we can't afford to give away a possession because we have inside position and don't block out. So that's kind of how that started with Luke.
And then I think from what you said with statistically, you've thought that this has provided an improvement, A, and then also B, I mean, it gives guys who might just think of themselves as the end of the bench guys a role and a part of the team.
We're at this point thus far this season, we're 1.02 points per possession offensively, baseline out of bounds. Last year at this time, we were 0.59. That's a distinct change. This season, defensively, 0.57, which is like an elite level number. Last year, it was 0.78. Sideline out of bounds offensively, we're 0.83. And last year, we were 0.69. So a marked improvement. And then defensively, 0.85, which is just okay. Last year, we were a little better at 0.78. So we're 41st in offense out of bounds and 25th in out of bounds defense. So obviously, Zach has been a part of that trend in a good direction.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right, next up, we'll go to Andrew Hattersley, and then we'll go to Daryl Bruffett.
Hey, Coach. You're just hitting the midway point of the season now, obviously. Where do you think your team is, and how close are you to finding that sort of consistency that you've been looking for?
I haven't thought of it, Andrew, relative to the halfway mark just because everything has been so topsy-turvy. I'm not disagreeing with what you said. I guess I hadn't processed that. I don't think we found any consistency, and that's a reflection of me. And I think in order for us to have a chance in any game, no matter where the game is played and no matter who we're playing against, we have to find some level of consistency. Talking about the Missouri game, we're up 7 with under 4 minutes to play. So the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 9 minutes of the second half, we were up 7. And then over the next 13 minutes, they outscored us by 25. And then to conclude the last 11 minutes, we beat them by 2. And so 12 players played in the first 16 minutes, and 12 players played in the 13 minutes that they outscored us by 25. Much of that, obviously, were turnover specific. Hassan and Dre both had a good week last week, the best week they've had since they've been here together. Hassan had 0 turnovers and 5 assists at Mississippi State. Dre had 1 turnover at Mississippi State, 2 against or 1 against Missouri. So our 2 ball handling guys did a much better job. But it's so hard, and you're giving away so many possessions when things are going good. And then when things go bad, they just went terribly bad. And so not everything's going to go perfect, but somehow when things begin to go bad, can we get it headed back in the right direction? I think Dre is not a real player yet, but he's approaching being consistent. E-Man does a lot of really good things, but he had 10 turnovers last week. So we need him on the floor for multiple reasons. We just don't need him to contribute to the thing that hurts us the most. And last week he did that. But collectively, we need to find consistency in our effort, consistency in how hard we play, consistency in how hard we play together. Whether we're at the halfway point or today in practice or tomorrow, that's what we've got to have. And I think maybe, just like I mentioned to Olin, on Monday and Tuesday, it was the best back-to-back days we've had in a long time. Maybe the best back-to-back days we've had. Now we're following the day off because I think long-term that was right. And we'll see if we can kind of start back where we left off.
And then just looking at Andre Gordon, he's obviously grown as a ball handler for you. Where do you feel like he's grown the past year from what you asked him to do last year versus this year?
I think he plays off 2 feet and plays with 2 hands at a much higher clip, which is a sign of a good player, particularly a good guard. Very rarely do you see guys, unless they're just uber talented, that beat you at this level off 1 foot and 1 hand. He has gotten to the point, last year he made 1 shot in the season off 1 foot. So, inside that charge circle, that's 0 to 4 feet. And then kind of if you went out another charge circle and looked at that 4 to 8 feet range, Dre made 1 shot in that range last year. And, good players get to that 0 to 4 foot spot and then make 2 foot, 2 hand decisions. Sometimes it's shoot, sometimes it's pass, but he's done such a remarkably better job in that 4 to 8 foot range of not shooting 1 foot shots, not making 1 hand passes. Even the turnover where he ate the ball, the last possession at Mississippi State, he was in that 4 to 8 foot range. Could he have shot it? Maybe. Would he have made it? Probably not. Could he have passed it towards their rim? Probably. Would it have been deflected into a run out layup? Arguably so. But that poise to just eat it, which was the same poise against Auburn when he made the shot. He's playing off 2 feet and 2 hands.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
All right, next we'll go to Daryl Bruffett, and then we'll finish up with Justin Woodard.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about playing a better defensive effort against Ole Miss after they shot like 45% against Mississippi State? Just how much better you're going to have to play defensively?
Yeah, the thing that really hurts our defensive numbers, Daryl, it's a little counterintuitive, but if you really start breaking down the numbers of our defense, it's our live ball turnovers that end up being dunks on the other end, and they're shooting 97%. And so when our defense is set, the numbers are much better. And then like any coach would tell you, the thing that we have struggled with, even with our defense set, is, can we finish the possession with a rebound? The thing that Ole Miss is good at that we'll have to do a great job of, with priority 1 being we can't turn it over. Priority 2 is when our defense is set and when they shoot it, we can't allow them to get extra possessions on the offensive glass. They're top 40 in the country in offensive rebound percentage. And our numbers, defensive rebound percentage, we're not good. And so that the live ball turnovers that end up being a basket, that kills us. So we're playing from behind when we have a set defense. And then when we have a set defense, we have to finish with the rebound. And so much of our let's figure out who can not turn the ball over ends up being the group that gets to play the most. And they're our defensive team that particular game, but it's not necessarily our best defensive team, but it's because our offensive, we got to put guys on the floor that can get a shot up, if all of that makes sense. It's kind of a compound problem.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Daryl. You're welcome once a month to these things.
All right, we'll wrap it up with Justin Woodard from KA.
Coach can give me grief on that too. Mike Lucas normally does this for us too. But hey, Coach, Q's numbers, stats-wise and minutes have been down. What would a more of emergence from Mr. Jackson do for you guys, Coach?
Man, Q is one of my favorite players ever, and so nothing at all against Q. I actually think Q would answer this question the same. We just need anybody that can help us not turn the ball over, and anybody that can help us get a stop that concludes with a defensive rebound. Obviously, Q's turnover rate is higher than anybody on our team, and our team's turnover rate is one of the worst in the country. And so when you're a guard and your team's turnover rate is a major wound and you are the leading turnover culprit as a guard, it's just a bad combination. We need him to score. He's gonna get fouled, and he's gonna make points from the free throw line. And we desperately need baskets, and we desperately need points. But if you're turning the ball over at an astronomical rate, it's just hard to find gaps of time when we can play you on a consistent basis. And he played the most consistent defensively he has in a while against Missouri, and he was 0-7. But he only had 1 turnover. But he got to play more because he only had 1 turnover. But against Mississippi State, he played 12 minutes and had 2 turnovers. Well, in a game that's going to finish in the 50s, we can't afford to just give them the ball. And then in a game that obviously we scored, they scored more points than in the mid-50s, but we just need guys that are not going to turn it over unless they're superlative in another way. And Q is superlative in some ways offensively that our team lacks when he's not on the floor. Statistically, his numbers are fine, but his turnover rate is it's really poor.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right, Coach, that's all we got for you. Appreciate the time.